And we're good. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock, Friday, August 11th. Call to order for the Palm Beach County Planning Commission meeting. If we may have a roll call, please.
Sarah Pardue. John Carr. Here. Rick Stopik.
Here.
Barbara Roth.
Here.
Dagmar Bras.
Here.
Barista Loud Doss. Penny Pompey.
Present.
Sam Calindo. Lori Vinegar.
Here.
Kylie Harper Larson. Ankur Patel.
Present.
Angela Van. Brian Stenberg.
Present.
David Searle. We have quorum.
Thank you very much. Okay, please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay. And do we have proof of publication?
Good morning, and yes, Chair, we do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any postponements from the previous meetings? Any issues with approving the agenda for today?
Nope, no postponements or deletions. One thing to note, there was correspondence left at each of your daises about letter from Cobra regarding the first item on the agenda, the Tropical World Nursery, expressing support.
Thank you. We have that. Okay. Consideration of the minutes from the June 9th meeting. July, there was no meeting, so if anyone has any additions or corrections to the minutes, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Barbara, second by Penny. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving along. Do we have any comments from the public on non-agenda items? No, seeing none. Comments by the chair? Really nothing to add today. Just glad to see everybody. Hope everybody's had a good summer. And now that the kids are back in school, I just really would like to know where all those cars were 3 days ago, because they're all back on the road this morning. It took me almost an hour to get here from Delray today. It's just absurd. But it's only going to be for 9 more months, so we'll be okay. All right. No rush. Okay, so moving along, we just have the main agenda item today is item 3A1. This is the Tropic World Nursery. I do have a few comment cards we'll get to later. But to start off with, who do we have who's going to be presenting from the applicant?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
For the record, Donaldson Hearing here today on behalf of the applicant, and we do have our project team here with us today. Let's see which way it goes forward. There we go. We have our team here with us today, Mr. John Sapo, here with KT Boynton Tropical, LLC, also with the Coulter Organization. We have Mr. Brian Seymour with Gunster, and Adam Kerr with Kimley Horn here on this beautiful Friday morning. The applicant is Coulter, KT Boynton Tropical, LLC. They are a very well-seasoned developer located here in Palm Beach County, here in Delray Beach, and are responsible for some of the finest communities that we have in really South Florida, southeastern Florida, and particularly a specialty in active adult communities and assisted living. So on the screen is the Madison, which is in Palm Beach Gardens in the Alton development, and a beautiful assisted living facility that was completed 3 or 4 years ago. The request that's before you this morning is a future land use amendment, basically from LR3, which is the existing land use, to CLR3 with a maximum of 256 residents. There are subsequent petitions that will be moving forward to the Zoning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners in September. Today, what is in front of you is the land use amendment, the Flume Amendment from LR3 to CLR3. The site is located south of Woolbright Road, just about a half a mile on the east side of Hagen Ranch Road. It's an 8.93 acre site, and it's opposite the Valencia Lakes community. And the access to the site, as you will see, is from a signalized intersection opposite Valencia Lakes, which is known as Valencia Way. Here's just to give you a little bit of context to the site and the appropriateness of the amendment that's before you today. So we have several communities that surround us, Tivoli up in the northwest, Valencia Lakes, which is to the immediate west, Cascades, which is our immediate neighbor to the south, and to the east, and then Valencia Isles. All of these are active adult communities, so the use that we're proposing we think is very synergistic to the communities that surround us. Just kind of zooming in a little bit on context, here is the project site. As we noted, to the immediate east of us is the Cascades community, and to the south as well. Valencia Lakes is to the west, and to the immediate north is the C-27 canal. And the Allegro community, which is an assisted living facility located immediately to the north of the site, and then to the north and to the east of Allegro is Valencia Isles. So the intersection of Valencia Way is signalized with good access off of Hagen Ranch Road. There's a large canal which separates us to the north, and then the Allegro community that was approved several years ago, I think about 5-6 years ago, very successful assisted living facility in Boynton Beach. So our request is for the Flume Amendment. The site is 8.93 acres. We have agreed and are in agreement with all of the conditions of approval, but expressly, project will be limited to a total of 256 residents and a maximum of 3 stories in height. The applicant worked very diligently over a period of about 9 months with all of the surrounding communities. I know Mr. Quinlivan, an associate of Mr. Sapos, and I met with a number of the communities, at least several of them 2, some of them 3 times, to obtain input. And their input not only on architectural design, but building height, buffers, really did inform the design, and the applicant worked very diligently to respond to each of the requests that were made. And we're very pleased that COBRA is supporting the petition that's in front of you this morning. I'll give you just a few highlights of the project. This is a land use amendment, so I'm going to show you a site plan. You're here to look at the land use, but this is our proposed site development plan. This will be an independent congregate living facility. So to the north of us is an assisted living facility. They have a component of independent, but it's predominantly assisted and memory care. Our market is independent, so it will be the independent. We are surrounded by active adult communities, so this creates a great transition. If they're ready to sell your house or a spouse dies, this provides the opportunity. The facility will have extensive amenities, including housekeeping, food service, transportation, and other recreational amenities here. Like we often talk about in the assisted world, it's intended to be more of like a cruise ship on land. All of your services are provided on the site. But specific to the plan that's in front of you, the applicant worked diligently to place the majority of the building focused to the north along the C-27 canal and to the west along Hagen Ranch Road, with our large open space and lakes oriented toward the southeast adjacent to our residential neighbors. There is an existing wall and existing buffer adjacent to Cascades. We will be working with their community and further enhancing that. We've worked to identify existing vegetation and to preserve it as a part of our overall plan. Here's just an enlargement of that so you can see our access is at the signalized intersection. The building is 2 and 3 stories, and again, we've agreed and are in agreement with the condition to limit it to 3 stories in height. These are just a couple of quick vignettes so that you can see the quality of the community. Our architectural design originally was much different, was much more contemporary, and we worked very closely with the communities. They gave us a number of recommendations, and we came back with things that were fresh. They wanted to see fresh, not necessarily all Mediterranean, but they wanted to see something that maybe was a little less contemporary, and I think what we came up with is absolutely outstanding. It would be very, very beautiful. This is a view kind of with none of the buffer shown on Hagen Ranch Road, so there'll be a big buffer consistent with what we had done at Allegro many, many years ago. And then here's another view of what it would look like. So with that, that concludes our presentation. If there's any comments that we need to respond to, we'd like to have that opportunity. Our entire team is here. We look forward to your support today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. I'm sure we'll come back with a couple of questions in a few minutes. Okay, and is Melissa available to address the issue from the county?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Melissa Michaels, Senior Planner for the Planning Division. The agent did a great job at explaining their proposal, so I'm going to kind of breeze through this and give you guys our findings. Here's a closer view of this site just to go over it one more time and give a little more background on what's around it. To the north is the Allegro CLF. It's across 100-foot wide Lake Worth Drainage District Canal. It was approved around 2010 to change, kind of a similar change from LR3 to institutional 8. Back then they didn't have the CLR land use, so how we went about doing CLFs was to put it in institutional. It has 140 beds. To the north of that is the Valencia Isles PUD, which has 793, it's completely built out, and it has 793 zero-lot line family homes. Abutting the site is the Cascades PUD to the east and south, and they have 928 zero-lot line single-family homes. And then across the street, across Hagen Ranch Road, is Valencia Lakes, which has 696 zero-lot line single-family homes. And you can see all the uses around the two CLFs are LR3, and you'll be changing the subject site from LR3 to the CLR and keeping the LR3 underlying. Staff has concluded that the proposed amendment will allow for additional opportunities for senior housing in the area, which is needed. The subject site is compatible with the surrounding residential future land use designations and the adjacent congregate living facility. The request is consistent with all applicable comprehensive plan policies. And finally, staff is recommending the 2 conditions of approval, which the applicant mentioned, which will limit the number of residents and the development height. These conditions will further to ensure that development is compatible with the neighbors. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with these conditions. During public notification, we sent out 500-foot and interested party notices. The interested parties included Cobra, Allegro Boynton CLF, Cascades Resident Association, Valencia Isles HOA, Tivoli Reserve HOA, and Valencia Lakes HOA. And here are the conditions if you need to look at them further, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. We do have a couple of comment cards on the issue. 2 folks that did want to speak. We have Mr. Marvin Kaufman and Mr. Bob Sklar. So, Mr. Kaufman, if you'd like to come forward to podium 1. Mr. Sklar, if you'd like to go to podium 2, we'll take Mr. Kaufman first for 3 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. We were very active in the project when we were building Allegro across the street and worked with the council, and we resolved a lot of issues at that time. One of the issues that was resolved by the commission was that they would put a no U-turn sign at that traffic light, and that was overruled by traffic. Now it's even more exacerbated by the fact that we have another community whose exit will be directly opposite ours. And then you have Allegro next to them on the other side. So again, I'm asking for a simple sign, just a no U-turn sign at that intersection, which was agreed to by the council the last go-around and knocked down by traffic the last go-around. I don't know what will happen this time again, but this could be a lot of ways of, this could eliminate a lot of potential accidents. When we worked with the council with regard to Allegro, the northern egress from Allegro. We pointed out what kind of problem there would be and pointed out what kind of accidents would take place. And the very first accident that we described took place the very first day they opened. So, we did our own traffic study. We have a CD that we did when that was built. And I mean, it's very obvious that if somebody's going to make a U-turn there, it's going to create a tremendous hazard. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may ask you a question while
Sure.
you're here. When you say council, you're referring to the Palm Beach County Commission
Say
recommended
the
it?
same
What
group,
commission?
right. You're correct. This
Okay.
commission.
And traffic declined it.
Yeah, it was agreed to by, Mary Lou Berger was on the commission at the time, and that was the group we worked with.
Okay.
And they agreed to put, that we should have a no U-turn sign there, and then traffic obviously knocked it down.
And traffic is anyone from traffic here today by any chance? No.
So, again, with the two exits, two entrances and exits directly opposite each other, and that area and Allegro right here, it's obvious that a no U-turn sign would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, the applicant has no objection with that. Our traffic engineer kind of asked, he was wondering why there was not a no U-turn sign there. So if it's appropriate, we're more than happy to agree to that if it's something that the county wants.
Okay. All right. It's not a decision that I can make unilaterally, of course, but I would welcome input from traffic at some point on this issue because it seems to me that it's an issue that needs to be addressed.
And I don't know, is this live? This project will also go through the zoning process as well, where we will, traffic will be, more involved, and there will be conditions of approval, and that could be.
Okay.
with it. Oh, there you are. Sorry, Dom is here. Dom, you can speak to this. Traffic.
For the record, Dominic Simius with Traffic. I was not aware of the U-turns, and apparently, if I may defer to the concurrency application, which is approved, I don't think that should be implemented because based on the operational analysis that was conducted, the intersection will be operated at acceptable level of service, and all the approaches would be operated at level of service A. That should not be implemented, to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have another comment card, Mr. Bob Sklar. If you'd like to speak, please come up to podium 1.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I represent Valencia Lakes Homeowners Association. I'm on the board of directors. And our concern is certainly not with the project itself. It's concern similar to something that Marvin was talking about, the ingress and egress and traffic around our intersection. We have requested, as we did with Allegro, to have a second exit with a crossover from the exit so that traffic can cross over Hagen Ranch Road and come south on Hagen Ranch Road instead of having the ingress only so that any ingress coming from the northbound side can turn in there rather than coming to the traffic light. We're concerned with tractors and trailers coming in. I believe there's just a 60-foot ingress at the facility, and there's a concern that we have certainly about the longer traffic traveling into the ingress at the traffic light area. We understand we have a U-turn or a left-hand turn lane coming in, but that doesn't prevent any tractor trailers or larger vehicles or any backup of traffic coming in from extending into Hagen Ranch Road directly across from our exit. So we have requested that the second exit, which is north of the entrance, be allowed to have a crossover so that traffic coming in and out of the community can travel into that ingress also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, we also have one other comment card from a gentleman who...
I'm sorry, I might add, one of the concerns I understand the traffic department has is having crossover traffic going into inbound traffic on the northbound side in the second exit. If you take a look at the community that's being built right now down on Atlantic Avenue, the Luna community, they have the exact same situation where traffic is allowed to go eastbound from the turnpike area and turn across Atlantic Avenue directly into that community, and that's one of the highest traffic areas in the market in our communities. So we're it's not a very good reason not to do something when you see what's happening in that area. And if you live in that area and drive by it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have one other comment card from a gentleman who 4 of us can't quite figure out the handwriting, but it looks like Gideon Bernard or Bernal or something along those lines, who was in opposition but did not wish to speak. So that concludes the comment cards. Is there anyone else that had a comment card that may have gotten missed that didn't get submitted? Okay, fine. Thank you. All right, at this point, I'd like to look to my fellow commissioners left and right if anyone has any questions for the applicant or the county. All right, I'll start with Barbara, then we'll work down the side.
Good morning. Yes, thank you, Chair. For Mr. Hearing, if I might ask. Thank you, Don.
Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning. Good morning. Don, just a couple of issues about design. I understand the county's desire, and you were able to design something that had varied heights, and you did that by doing 2 and 3 stories. Am I correct?
It varies in height, but yes, we try to transition the ends of the building down to a 2-story side.
Can you tell me how people get up to that 2nd and 3rd story?
Everything, there's multiple elevators throughout the facility.
Thank you. So they're Coulter. Thank you very much. No one said, well, gee, we're not 4 stories, therefore we're not putting in an elevator. You're doing that with 2 and 3 stories.
Right, and all the corridors are air-conditioned, multiple elevators, and access throughout.
I thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Looking to the right. Ankar?
Quick question for staff. Allegra was institutional, so it was zoned at 8 per acre. Is that how they built it, or was the amendment allowing them also go higher?
I'll answer the question. I did Allegro many years ago. It is a beautiful facility. They're at 140 units, which is the 8 units to the acre.
Got it. And then on the CLF designation, 12 is the max that they can go to?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Penny, Dagmar, anything? No, thank you. Okay. The other end down here, let's start with Brian. Nothing? John?
No questions. Great presentation. Thank you.
Lori?
No questions.
I just had one quick question. From looking at the diagram that you had of the site plan, and the fact that it is an independent facility, is there adequate parking?
There is. It's very well parked. We're parked in excess of the code, and then we have a number of areas that are green on the east side of the site, which is where we don't anticipate that we would need parking, but in the event that we do, we have the opportunity and have a spot to add it.
I mean, my only question is, in theory, if it's an independent facility, 256 beds could be 200 vehicles. Not likely, but...
Right. We'll have a total of 210 rooms or units, so about 78% will be single occupancy, about 22% will end up being double occupancy. We would find that really that you don't have that many cars. Allegro has a number of independent units within their facility, and what happens is sometimes people will bring a car because they want to have the car, but then they don't use the car and then they get rid of it. So that's something that we'll manage through the leasing process, because we do provide that transportation to the malls and to the doctors and to services for our residents.
And you're anticipating staff of, I would say, at least 100 people, probably 120?
No. Staff would be, this is a lower level of acuity. We will have a very robust staff because we will have a lot of amenity and lifestyle programming dealing with healthcare, healthy lifestyles. We'll have our dining and wait staff, housekeeping staff. Of course, they're come in and out at different times of the day. But no, I would think that we would have probably 25.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not a medical model. We provide personal services and housekeeping, but it's not. We don't have to have nurses 24/7 on site.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So no other questions. Entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the application with the conditions proposed by staff.
Thank you. From Commissioner Vinegar, second from anyone? Second, Penny? Got it. Any discussion amongst the commissioners? Wow, okay. In that case, I'll call the question. May I have a roll call, please?
John Carr,
Yes.
Barbara Roth,
Yes.
Penny Pompey,
Yes.
Dagmar Bras,
Yes.
Angela Van,
Yes.
Encore Patel,
Yes.
Brian Stenberg,
Yes.
Lori Vinegar,
Yes.
Rick Stopit.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving along now, we have the text initiation on the proposed text amendment. Stephanie is on vacation. Who's going to be presenting?
I will run through this presentation
Wow, right
for
to
you
the
all. And it'll be fairly brief. So just a refresher, so it's pretty unique in Palm Beach County in that we have what's called the initiation process. So that it means prior to diving into the, deeper actual policy changes and data and analysis, this is kind of that kickoff that then allows staff to proceed with that more detailed information. So each of the items that I run through will be back to the Planning Commission with full data and analysis. So again, this provides the Planning Commission and then the Board of County Commissioners advanced consideration and to receive preliminary feedback from the boards. The initiation does not indicate approval at this time, so vote to initiate is kind of that kickoff of the process. And then, like I mentioned, a full staff report and recommendation at future public hearings will be back before you. So the first of the three items is the recreation and open space element. It has been quite a few years since this element was updated, and it was requested by the Department of Parks and Recreation. It'll include additional policies, increasing public access, resiliency, and public outreach processes. It will also revise the parks-related definition in the introductory and administrative element of the comprehensive plan. The second item is deletion of the Lifestyle Commercial Center. As you'll remember, I think it was 2 months ago now, there was an item before the board deleting a previous condition. This is the Lifestyle Commercial Center it's been in the comprehensive plan but never actually utilized. So this would be removing policies related to that. As I mentioned, the 3 sites were previously approved with conditions requiring development as an LCC, and all those conditions subsequently have been deleted. And last but not least, talking about congregate living residential, I believe it was 2 years ago now, the zoning division had worked extensively with a consultant, and there were some modifications and updates to definitions and how the categorization of different CLR type uses are done in the code. So what this would do is to amend the policies within the comprehensive plan to provide that consistency with what's already been modified in the Unified Land Development Code. And with that, staff is recommending initiation of the proposed amendments.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to my left for this matter?
Yeah.
Yes, Liz.
I have a question. We did approve this back in 2008. It was mostly for mid-block, for infill, to make this work. Why would you want to remove it?
So like I mentioned, there were 3 projects originally years ago, as you pointed out, approved under the LCC, or Lifestyle Commercial Center. That was kind of the flavor at the time of that style of development, and since then, each of those 3 have come back and had those conditions deleted, and we haven't had any projects seeking that. And there's been other changes to the code and the comprehensive plan since 2008, so it just felt like it wasn't a necessary item to keep in the plan.
So if there's a piece of ground that appears to work, or maybe the commercial site would be needed in a certain area and it's mid-block, without this, they can't.
So the comprehensive plan does have policies very specific to the location criteria. So a lot of, like you're pointing out, requires either adjacency to an existing commercial site or at the location of two arterials, or I forget the exact, but yes, there are strict criteria. There are certain types of commercial you can do mid-block, like the commercial low office, and there are some provisions in certain circumstances to allow for it, but generally speaking, new commercial is not allowed mid-block.
The PIPD, how often is that used?
That is a good question. I'd have to check with
Vista
zoning on
Center is
that.
like the only PIPD. There
Right.
might be one other, but we keep that in the plan.
I'd have to confer with zoning on
You know, we keep that in the plan. So I'm just wondering, why would we remove something that might be helpful in some area for if they do work with the rules and the code for that for an LCC? Just, it's not. I wouldn't be opposed to it, to initiate it, but we have to think about it, and it may be useful. Look at where it might be helpful in certain areas.
Sure, and when we dive into this further, we'll bring that back and get into that more level of detail when this is back for.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Dagmar?
First of all, can you tell me what a PIPD is?
Oh, it's a planned industrial park development. That's what Vista Center is.
Okay.
And there's not too many of these. Yeah,
This Vista.
Yeah, and there's not too many of these in the county at all. There might be just one other one out by 20 Mile Bend. I'm not quite sure, but there's very few here.
Okay. My other question is, under the parks paragraph, what is resiliency? It says increase access, resiliency, and public outreach. What is resiliency?
I'm not exactly sure what parks, in terms of with relevance to the parks, what they were to. Do you know?
The Office of Resiliency. It might be nice to have the Office of Resiliency come here and give a 5-minute explanation of what this fairly new department is. It would be really helpful.
So, from what I read, the use of resiliency is used very broadly, being that it's intended to be for environmental resiliency, economic resiliency, kind of social resiliency even. So it's touching on a lot of different points within the ROSE element itself. So it's not a specific answer, but it's a very broad use of the term resiliency in this
So basically,
example.
I guess they're talking about resiliency as far as it will survive in the long run, sort of. The idea.
Probably a good way to characterize it.
Okay, the idea is okay. My next question is: it wasn't in our backup material, but regarding the third. The third paragraph regarding the CLRs, the congregate living residential. It wasn't here, but on the slide, you mentioned 3 stories. Are we going to be looking at heights of buildings? I mean, why was 3 stories? Or did I not see that?
It said 3
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the way the different categories of congregate living facilities, this was referencing a type 3. So it's not a height, it's
Okay,
a
not the height.
classification.
I thought
Correct.
I thought I saw the word stories. I'm sorry,
No.
type 3. Okay, then my last question is, when we do, have these projects that go before us, is there a rule or a line of measure on how tall can you build a building in the county? I mean, I'm sure further east they can go higher, but as we go further west, our area has always, fought for 3-story buildings, 35 to 38 feet, but now we have buildings coming in that are 50 feet. Was there a change in the code, or is this something that was always allowed? The applicant just had to request it. And also sometimes the applicant gets a little, they like to bring in the fact that we have an 8-story, hospital in the area, or they just built a school and the architectural details go up to 50 feet. Where does the county stand as far as height in the area?
Sure. So height isn't really spoken to in detail at all in the comprehensive plan, but the regulations do live in the Unified Land Development Code through zoning applications. They'll assess that. As a rule of thumb, 3 is kind of a traditional, what is usually allowed by right, and then you can go higher, but each floor of additional height requires additional setbacks. So you can go higher, it just has to do with the positioning of the building on the property.
Okay, so, okay, I do get that as far as the setbacks, but are the setbacks adequate? You know, I mean, the buildings, the 8-storied hospital and the 50-foot middle school that are out there right now, they do have hundreds of feet that they are set back off of a major thoroughfare. But we have something coming, I mean, we've already approved it, but it's something coming down the pike, which I think it's 70 feet off of Boynton Beach Boulevard at 50 feet. Is that adequate as far as a setback for that height of a building? Is that the rule?
So again, that's getting more into the zoning discussion. So I know through the code and zoning implements, each different zoning category has setback requirements, but that's something that lives in the code.
Okay.
Not really the comp.
All right, thank you.
Who's going to come down? Penny? Anchor?
No, nothing.
Anchor, did everyone come in?
On the parks, are you also going to look at newer activities for the usage of the space? Because it doesn't say anything about that. Like pickleball is an example. There's some other sports that are starting to become much more popular. And even the demand for something like, let's say, football or soccer, as you call it, there's not enough fields now, and there's stuff like that. So I don't see you guys talking about activities. And I think if you're going to look at it, I think it's important to look at that also.
Okay, as planning staff, so again, this is being led by the Parks Department. But as we get into drafting some of the policies, those will all be in detail before the Planning Commission at a future hearing. I'm not exactly sure, based on our preliminary meetings with them, the extent, but we can have that discussion as we get into the policy updates.
Yeah, and if I could add to the conversation, we know that Parks and Rec is currently revising their master plan. So a lot of the information and final items within their master plan will be incorporated into their comprehensive plan policy amendments within the ROSE element. So a lot of the specific activities will be directly spoken to in the master plan. And then the policies in the comprehensive plan will kind of have that broad brushstroke and ensure that
I get that, but what I'm saying is since you guys are looking at all these other stuff too, for the purposes of the comp plan, I mean, I think it's important to also look at the activities as part of that discussion too.
And I'd like to speak to that also. Parks is definitely very progressive with the new activities that are out there. Pickleball, for instance, is one. They are making arrangements for facilities like that. I know in some of our planning discussions that we've had, that's one of the things. I mean, we've even got into what is it, the motionless. What is the bicycles and boundless bicycles, and I mean they're doing amazing things at the Parks and Recs department, and they're definitely aware of some of the newer trends out there. So they try to keep current. So it's definitely in front of them. But
I'm just saying it comes in with resiliency. You guys talk about resiliency. Part of that is looking at every new activity that's out there. So
yes, thank you. We'll bring that to their attention too.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you said that it will be coming back to us. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there'll actually be like the strike through and underline, so you can go through at the policy level.
At that time, Director, may we request that we have people here to answer some of those specifics?
Correct, and I
That'll
did
be
speak with the departments, usually initiation, because we don't have those details yet, but yes, when that is back, we'll have each of the relevant departments and divisions here so they can get into some more.
And if I might just address Commissioner Braw's issue of height, we have been hearing for years that the county says that once a building is above 3 stories, 35 to 38 feet, then the county says there must be an elevator. That's specifically why I asked the question to Mr. Hearing. It doesn't preclude putting an elevator in at 2 or 3 stories. But so in that sense, the county does have a provision. Am I correct? You would not have a 4-story building without an elevator?
I believe that is part of building code standards where of a certain height triggers that threshold for requirement for access via elevator.
Yes, and again, so looking at this CLR use, Also, at this point, the county would not sanction a project that came with the outside walkways, for instance, the old style of construction. Am I correct? If someone came to you with a CLR that was, let's say, all 2 and 3 stories, but it had the outside walkways, that's no longer...
Without an elevator, or irregardless of...
With or without an elevator, what about those outside walkways?
I don't believe there's any prohibition.
Oh, that's
There-
part of the design, and,
Right.
and they,
But in reality, nobody seems to be doing that because of weather and all of that.
Right.
So, but nothing, again, as we saw in this project, precludes an elevator in a 3-story building.
correct.
Correct.
That's-
Thank you.
That's what they choose to do, yeah.
Mr. Chair, could I follow up with a?
Sure.
Can I follow up, please? First of all, we're really concerned about the Live Local Act, because when you're creating the height, you know about that, I guess you're looking into that and all, because with the height, then if they do, there's a certain part of that if within a certain number of feet of another building, then they can go up to a certain height. It's like, that's a problem. So Live Local Act is something that it appears it's going to affect us unless we can do something in the next legislative session to fix it. But
Yeah, I don't know any specifics or seen any proposals, but I do believe that there are going to be some adjustments to the bill in the next legislative session. That's what I've heard.
So,
Oh,
because,
yes.
yeah, because there could be no limitation on height or density in
Yeah, there are some things that weren't very
issues.
clarified in the legislation. So.
The second thing is that, I'm on LDRAB as well, and we have subcommittees. Sometimes before it comes to the LDRAB, sometimes there's a subcommittee, like we had landscaping and different types of subcommittees. This might be something, I know the planning, we don't generally do this, but with something that's so vast and involved and as this recreation open space, maybe some people would like to there might be a subcommittee for this to work with the Parks and Recreation off of the actual Planning Commission. But the alternative might be, since we have so many different people up here that have diverse backgrounds that can assist with this, perhaps this, before it comes to a transmittal, that we have another little follow-up discussion before it actually goes to train. Like if we get Parks and Recreation, the Office of Resiliency to come and all, it might be nice to have it before a transmittal.
If I may, I've been working with Parks on this amendment. Parks is going through their own process. The comprehensive plan for other county departments is a place for them to enshrine their requirements as part of their overall process. Parks is choosing to update because they have not had an update. They've been working through a 20-year master plan. They're the better part of halfway through it. It's time for them to update their stuff. They have talked about updating their things through their own process, updating their own documents, as we had already talked about. They have a process for it. All we will ultimately do is reflect what they ultimately conclude in our plan and update the plan accordingly. This is more of a place to park the requirement for the purposes of getting recreation requirements on future developments and so forth. That's really what it is. This isn't a workshop to figure out what the standard is for a park. This is what's the level of service for a park and how are we going to go forward and plan the next 20 to 30 years of parks for the county. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. We need a motion to move this along?
Oh, I'll motion. Would somebody else like to make the motion? I'll motion to initiate the amendments that staff has recommended, the comprehensive plan amendments.
Thank you, Lori. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ankur. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I think we just go with a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the regular agenda. Any comments from my fellow commission members? General comments at all? Nothing to my left? Nothing to the right? Thank you. Executive Director?
No, thank you, staff, for all of your hard work on this, as always.
As always.
And also wanted to let you all know that if those that don't, that our South County Building Division office is now open. So for those of your constituents or those you speak with, we have now a branch down at the South County location for certain services. So
Cool.
just
Can you tell the exact location?
it's at the South County Governmental Center.
On Congress?
Administrative
Yeah.
Complex at 345 South Congress Avenue.
Perfect.
So-
Excellent. Great. Excellent. Thank you. Anything from our county attorney?
Nope, no further comments.
Nada. You were very quiet today.
Thankfully, yes.
Planning director?
Just to note, so last month, there were no items, so Planning Commission was canceled, but we do have 3 items for September and 4 for October, so.
That was like,
to make sure we'll be having those
my
meetings.
question. So we'll actually have
Yes.
a busier agenda coming forward. Okay, good deal. Good. Seeing nothing further before the commission, a motion to adjourn. So moved. All right, everybody, enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.